What's a great threat to the United States is a bi-coastal elite that has grown up in 50 years of luxury and affluence, and they're completely unaware of the source of their wealth. They don't know that the consequences of their ideology will make less energy, less food. They feel that they do not want to have oil-based nitrogen fertilizers or pesticides, and they don't need to be intensively farmed for great production. Sri Lanka is doing it now. They're banning chemical or synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. They used to have double the GDP per person per capita income of India. Now they're starving.
Is this really what happens to a country when these policies are enacted? Can implementing Agenda 2030 really lead to the collapse of an entire nation?
Our farmers started using synthetic fertilizer in 1952, and that helped us to achieve a very high yield. And starting from 2008, we have been producing more rice than we can consume. In other words, there was a surplus. That was a leap jump forward.
Imagine that. Through sheer ingenuity, hard work, perseverance, and scientific discipline, the Sri Lankan people developed a paddy rice crop that was among the highest yielding in the entire world, allowing them to not only feed their own people, but also to export the crop to surrounding countries, making some much-needed money for the national treasury in the process. But this path to prosperity, as well as the food security of the whole country, was inextricably linked to the use of nitrogen-based fertilizer.
More than 90% of the farmers are using synthetic fertilizer. Let me let you know why fertilizer is required. If you want to get 5 metric tons of rice, the paddy plant requires about 105 kilograms of nitrogen. If you don't put those nutrients into the soil becomes infertile. You need the fertilizer to make sure the required amount of nitrogen can be supplied to the plant. If not, you will not get the yield.
The government of Sri Lanka banned the import of artificial fertilizers, pesticides, and weedicides.
Overnight, the Sri Lankan president, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, banned the use and import of chemical fertilizers. The entire Sri Lankan rice paddy crop had been bred for 6 decades to work symbiotically with chemical fertilizers. And so taking away the fertilizers without any sort of a transition process was like taking out 2 legs from underneath the table. The result was obvious. In a couple of short months, Sri Lanka went from a robust agricultural economy with a food surplus to a massive economic crisis that resulted in food and fuel shortages and rising inflation that forced its citizens to work up to 5 different jobs to make ends meet. All because of one new law, unilaterally enacted by its president. And the more we spoke with the people of Sri Lanka, the more dire the situation seemed.
Overnight, they decided to go with a different organic fertilizer. Overnight.
How bad did it get? What kind of shortages did you guys have?
Our crop suffered. A lot of us were struggling without basic things in the supermarkets because the farmers weren't producing anything.
How long have you guys been farming here?
50 years.
50 years right here in this land?
Yes.
What kind of vegetables?
Red radish, cabbage, leeks, carrot.
When the president said no more chemicals, what happened to your farm?
My economy fell down 50%.
Your personal economic situation fell by 50%.
Before we got 10,000 kilo. Now 4,000, 3,000.
Of vegetables. So you went from 10,000 to 4,000.
Normally, we can fill up 5 boxes, around 5,000 kilograms of fresh tea.
So you're saying before, it was not only this, like all this would be full.
All this would be full.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's a huge difference.